As you've probably already found out, this is not live tonight. This is a recording that I am making and posting to the church Facebook page, and it will be posted on the church web page as well. But I wanted to have the opportunity to talk to you directly and not by letter. And I guess this is, in this time of coronavirus, this is about as direct as we can get, since we can't gather as a large group to have a meeting. But Peggy and I have had to make a very hard decision, and that decision is that I'm going to need to step aside and relinquish my position here at FUMC, which I have loved dearly. I love the people here dearly. And I wanted to share the reason why that has become necessary. The church is heading towards reopening. Well, there's planning that is being done. We have a team that is engaged in the process of getting everything lined up and ready for that to happen. And it's scheduled to happen on the 12th of July. And there is going to come a time when, the church will need to reopen. I'm not sure whether, because of rising numbers of coronavirus cases, that this is the best time to do it. But I've had to think hard about my role in that, and in this very unusual time. Coronavirus has left a lot of victims in its wake, and I think that my ministry here is going to be another one of its victims. The district superintendent and I had a talk with one another about discussing about my future. And I asked him the question. I said, how is it that the conference can send out guidelines that, for reopening, that state that they strongly recommend that people who are in the vulnerable age group, as well as have underlying conditions which would leave them susceptible to, a very negative, outcome from contracting the virus. How is it that the conference is strongly encouraging those people to stay home and still worship online, when the pastor is in that same vulnerable group? Your pastor is, I'm going to be 68 in August. I have a number of underlying conditions. I'm an asthmatic. I had asthma as a child and still have it on occasion. And listen, I know what it's like, the panic and the anxiety of not being able to breathe. And I think about that all the time, when it comes to this particular virus that attacks the respiratory system. I have diabetes that I control with medication, but it's an underlying condition. And not only that, it's been proven that people with type A blood are more susceptible to a more serious case of the virus than other blood types. And so I have a lot of strikes against me. And if it were just myself, if I were a bachelor perhaps, and had no other concerns, family concerns, this wouldn't be an issue. But I have a wife who is also in the vulnerable age group, who also has underlying conditions. And I don't in any way want to jeopardize her. And on top of that, Peggy is responsible for her mother, who is in Bradenton. She lives alone, and she's got a disease called MAC lung disease, which means she has to have oxygen all the time. Her lungs are in a slow deteriorating state. And she would certainly be one of those who would have a very adverse outcome should she contract the virus. So taking all of that into consideration, since Peggy is going to have to be spending more and more time down in Bradenton to take care of her mother, Peggy cannot afford to be exposed, which means that I cannot afford to be exposed where I may in turn around and expose her, which would then in turn expose her mother. Now, I want to say that Peggy and I have, because of all of this, we've known that this is, how our lives we're going to have to center. Because of this, we have been particularly cautious about, how we're living through this coronavirus, crisis. We don't go out, and if we go out, we don't get out among people. We take a ride. We have our groceries delivered to us, dropped off outside, and then we disinfect them before we bring them in, so as not to inadvertently bring in, the virus from a surface, which we know is not a high likelihood, but it is a likelihood. It could happen. And so we don't go anywhere without masks, taking masks with us or taking gloves. It's a hyper-vigilance because we are in the vulnerable category. And we believe the science. We believe in, what medical experts are saying. The conference has got these virologists who are warning us about, even opening churches because it's, you might be exposing people to the possibility of contact. And since our church was moving towards reopening, I had to make the decision. It was a hard decision. Do I take the chance and, lead us through that opening? And even though it's a very slight chance of contracting the virus, do I take that chance, any chance, that I might contract it and then pass it on, and perhaps cause serious illness to my wife as well as to her mother? And the Lord has been, and I've been wrestling with this for a long time. I want you to know this is not just a spur of the moment decision. I have been wrestling with this now for a while. And I can always tell when God is working on me because I get so upset internally inside of me. It's, as the Bible says, it's a disquieted spirit about me. And it's been a blessing that I've been able to go out and swim, for in the mornings now, because that's where I go out and have sort of a conversation with God. I'm out early in the morning. I'm there by myself, and I can pray out loud, and nobody hears me except maybe the neighborhood dogs. Maybe that's why they're barking. But I pray it out until I finally find some peace about it. And I finally, yesterday, after talking this over with Peggy, praying about it, both of us praying about it, came to this very difficult decision that I had to step down and not take the chance in terms of health. And so coronavirus, claims another victim in this, and that is my ministry and work with you, which I enjoyed so very much and was looking forward to continuing on. And then this happened. My plan is that I will do these next 2 weekend worship events, worship services. I'll share in those. And but the Bible study will no longer take place. Maybe the next person coming in will be willing to continue that forward. I do want to say I had a wonderful conversation with the superintendent, and he said that he had people that would possibly step in. And then yesterday afternoon he called me to let me know that he had talked to an individual who was very willing and very excited about the prospect of coming and taking my place in the 1st of July. So you don't have to worry about, with being without leadership, because leadership is forthcoming. It's already taken care of. This is the wonderful thing about the Methodist Church, is that there are people that can step in, and the superintendent knows who the qualified people are to come, and you're going to get a really good qualified person to come in and take my place. But it's time for me to, I guess, retire. This year, 2020, marked the 45th year of my ordination into the United Methodist Church here in Florida. I was ordained in 1975 as a probationary member, as a deacon. And it's been a tremendous joy. This work in the church has just been such a blessing to me. But I think now it's time for me to finally step out and do something different with my life. And so more than likely I'll end up doing some writing. Maybe you'll hear about that later on. But I do hope that you'll continue to pray for me as I pray for you as you move forward. The church is on solid financial ground. You're in good shape. Just need to get past this unusual time to a point where things finally get back to normal and you can begin to build. And I believe that's possible. I believe you do have a future. The superintendent in our conversation says we're not giving up on First Church. First Church always has a way of just kind of resurrecting itself. And that's what the district believes. That's what I believe as well. So I encourage you to be strong and be faithful. It's been a great blessing to work with you. And I've come to know and love a lot of you. And I just wish you the very best as God continues to do his work through you to the community of Eustis and the world. God bless you.